Hi, this is Hank. Had someone call last night. They were putting a new light switch in their ceiling fan, and I was trying to explain to them how to splice the wires together. So I thought I'd put together a little video to show a couple of options of easy ways to splice wires. The first thing we're going to look at is called a tap splice. It's a solderless connector that is meant to add an additional wire to an existing circuit. So you put the wire you want to add in the back, and then you pinch that around the existing wire. Now you can also use this just as a splice, just to add two wires together. All you do is pull the second wire back into the end of the enclosure there. So there's that little blade that kind of pinches through the insulation on the wires and creates the electrical connection by pinching around the wire itself. So you get your lineman's pliers there, and you crimp the blade down through. Be sure that you get a good hard crimp. Make sure your connection's good. Now there is a physical circuit going through that blade from one wire to the other. Then the cap is meant to just cover up the blade. Now, using it like this, we want to wrap a little tape around there because we don't want that exposed wire hanging out there. So they make ones that are just meant for splicing, doing butt splices like this, but this is perfectly acceptable as well. So the next option we'll look at is another solderless connector. This is a butt splice. The way it works, you strip your wire, of course, then you stick it in, make sure you're getting into the metal part of the connector. I always do one side at a time. When you try to do two sides at a time, I've seen this go wrong so many times. So be sure that you get your crimpers just on the half of the metal that you have your wire in. Just be sure you're biased to the side that your wire's on right there. Then you give it a good hard crimp. Now, one thing that can go wrong with these connectors is not a hard enough crimp, crimping on the edge of the metal, crimping on the insulation. So you just have to really be careful and pay attention to what you're doing when you use these. You can make connections all day long that are great. You just have to be really careful of what you're doing. Then you stick the other side in. Again, be sure you're crimping in the middle of what's left of the metal. Crimp it hard, good and solid. Give it a good tug. Be sure you're looking, make sure you're not just pinched on the insulation. So that's how the butt splice works. Along the same lines with the solderless connectors, we have all sorts of connector options. This is a male and female plug. Works the same way. You put the wire in, you crimp it, one on each connector. But in this case, now you have a plug that's removable. So you can use these. You got spade connectors. There's almost a limitless options on your solderless connectors there. Now, the most common and easiest connection for most people would be a wire nut. What you do here is you prep your wires, you strip them. Important things to note: be sure your ends of your wires are even. Now I'm going to give these just like one twist. I don't want to just do all the twisting and then stick the wire nut on. I want the wire nut to do the twisting for me, but I'm just giving it one twist to hold my wires together for this example. The wire nut has a metal cone that grips the wires and twists it as you screw it on. Now be sure you're holding your wires firmly and up close to the wire nut, and twist that wire nut until it stops. If it doesn't stop, you've got the wrong size or a bad wire nut. It's got to stop. Now there's a good connection right there. Now with the wire nut, I always put electrical tape on there. I like to start down on the wires, get a few good wraps on the wires, and then work my way up onto the wire nut. And I'll go around that 2 or 3 times. That's how I do wire nut. So there's a few good options on splicing wires. I hope you find these helpful. If you do, if you find yourself watching more than a couple of videos from any YouTuber, help them out and like and subscribe. So I do appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.